Hey, what's up, everyone? Happy Friday's Eve, as I've come to call it. Trying to do a little series here of Friday's Eve, but tonight it's a real special night. Got someone brand new to the cigar industry in terms of just launched Silent Hero Cigars, a veteran-owned cigar company. I reached out to Bryce a few months ago. Just wanted to get some information about the brand, and I said, "Hey, man, when you get up and running, let me know. I want to do a live with you." And so we are finally at that moment. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Bryce. Hey, what's up, Bryce?
What's going on, brother? How are you doing?
Good, man. Like I said, happy Friday's Eve. That's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
We should start celebrating the weekend early. But no, man, appreciate got the cigars super quick. I'm super excited. I wanted to try one last night just to kind of get a taste of it. Timing didn't let me do it.
Yeah.
So I am going to be smoking it first live with you. But go ahead, introduce yourself to the cigar community who's out there, and tell us a little about Silent Hero.
For sure. And sorry I couldn't join you in having a smoke with you. It is
No worries.
It has been raining, much needed rain out here in Wyoming, but it is, man, it's trying to make up for it. That's for damn sure. But no, so obviously my name's Bryce. I'm the founder of Silent Hero Cigar. I'm a disabled veteran. And so essentially what we're trying to do over here at Silent Hero to be a little bit different, besides just delivering a high quality, good premium cigar, we're really trying to attack that PTSD for our veterans as well as first responders, but really getting out there and helping the veteran community, just because, obviously I have a little bit closer of a tie to that.
Yeah, of course.
So essentially we're trying to partner up with companies like Headstrong. Headstrong does work for veterans that want to seek therapy. Dogs Inc., which, if you see me on these lives, I'm on usually with like Jersey Cigar Mafia, Ohio Cigar Mafia. Those guys are really trying to push to get more funding for Dogs Inc., so veterans can get service dogs free of charge to them, stuff like that.
Yep.
And we really do that, and we really try to fight and help these organizations by donating 10% of every sale back into this community, so we can really have a good tangible impact moving forward. And just a little bit about me and why that is a important mission over here is, obviously I have PTSD myself, and I will constantly fight for people to have dogs, or just fight for people to have the support they need. I myself have a service dog, and so it is incredible. I mean, I went from sleeping 2 hours a night for a very, very long time. And then getting my service dog, and literally in the same weekend, I slept 5.
Wow.
And
instantly changed.
Yeah. I mean, it's just incredible. So, I mean, any organizations like that, we want to be a part of. And I mean, it doesn't even have to be service dogs or stuff like that. Locally, there's a ranch that I'm working with now that rescues old horses, like old barrel racing horses, old rodeo horses. And essentially, if you're a veteran, first responder, whatever, you can go out there to his big plot of land and go and pet these horses, or go out there and get some solitude. The guy mows the whole perimeter of the fencing, so you can go out there and take a walk. It's little things like that make a huge difference. And so our company is really just trying to get out there and back that up and keep them going as much as we can.
That's awesome, man. Before I get into Light Up a Cigar, I'm going to say one thing about PTSD. So I'm in the Coast Guard. What branch are you in?
Army.
Gotcha. It doesn't matter what branch you're in. At the end of the day, over our over our left, over our heart, it says U.S. Whether it's U.S. Army, U.S. Navy, U.S. Coast Guard, and something that binds us together. I just hit 10 years back in May, and PTSD will come in different forms. It doesn't. A misconception, I think, is it has to be through combat or wound, and it doesn't always have to be. I mean, I look back at my career. Stressful situations in general. It's, when you really take that time to pause, when you're like, holy crap, what did I just see? Or what did I just become a part of? And, over time, especially like as I go up more senior and I spend more time in the Coast Guard, I'm realizing at the end of the day, I'm going to need some time to decompress from everything that I've been exposed to and seen. So, I think I just want to get out there, military members were exposed to a lot, not just combat, not just action, but it's also day-to-day stressors that could also, it's a cumulative thing in my opinion.
100%.
But what cigar? So I like, we were talking earlier, and the Maduro. So I got two dark ones here. Can you tell me which one is the Maduro, or are they both?
So I believe if you go from left to right, so
Okay.
starting from the Candela over, that'll be the Maduro.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
So got it. All right. So I'm excited, man. So can you tell me a little, while I light up here, can you tell me a little about the logo? Here, I'll show everyone. So also I got Instagram going. There we go, right there. So I'll show everyone on Instagram as well.
Yeah, so the logo is, it's a little bit of a different, so we wanted to kind of do something that was a little bit further outside the box, with it being a PTSD focused company. Yeah, I wanted to keep the logo real light. I didn't want anything to be real dark, real heavy, no skulls, no bullets, nothing like that, no bombs, anything that can, be an issue. And again, you're trying.
That's everything these days. Anything can be an issue these days.
And so, the gentleman as the main focal point that's on the band itself, that's actually just an AI generated soldier. That's a World War I generated soldier. We did that for a couple of different reasons. One being we didn't want to put any type of specific branch on that band, and we didn't want to affiliate it with any sort of thing like that, because it's not just the Army that deals with it. It's it's everyone, like you said. Whether you're the Marine, on the ground, or you're just like me, where I was at an office and doing stuff with drones. It's the completely different world, and we wanted to convey that. And then on top of that, number two, when World War I started to kind of kick off, that was when they started doing that whole shell shock, trauma, 1,000-yard stare look. And so that's the other reason behind why that soldier on that band looks a little bit more retro, is to capture when PTSD started to show itself, whether it be shell shock, PTSD, whatever you want to call it.
And I actually really like the ambiguity of it, because one of my questions I'm going to ask you is, what is a silent hero? Because I know me and you, that was one of the first discussions we had, what a silent hero is. But funny side story, here's how I know I'm getting older. About 3 months ago, I got into World War II, like really got into World War II. I watched Band of Brothers through for the first time, watched Pacific. Then I found myself reading World War II history, like books about World War II. And I was sitting down, I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. I'm getting older. Like I'm into World War II right now. And for me, I was just like, holy crap. But to your point, in terms of that 1,000-mile stare, when you hear stories from World War II, even with the Olympics in Paris, and they did a really nice special about veterans returning to Normandy after D-Day. That generation was built differently. I mean, true heroes, not American heroes, British heroes, Allied heroes. The stuff they went through, the stuff they saw, and they did it all for their country. Like they had, so it amazes me to see kind of the transformation in today's U.S. military from like World War I, World War II.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's, I mean, it really is. It's almost like mind-boggling. It's hard to understand, how that mind frame started to shift from, like you said, from World War II to, say, troops in Iraq when they first went into Fallujah.
Right.
It's still just as graphic and still as gory as, as the previous, or I guess as battles in general. But I'm sure there's some things that, start to, stumbling over my words here.
All good, man.
I'm looking down at the comment below at Benjamin. I definitely agree. Police, doctors, and firemen definitely need that relief too. It's truly an umbrella. It's just PTSD in general. People need that help, and people need to know that you're there. And that's the thing with this company that we're trying to get after.
So with that, what does I can give you a break from talking and kind of tell everyone what I thought of when I heard about Silent Hero.
Sure.
So when I first saw Silent Hero, it's hard to describe, but I automatically got it. I knew, you know, being in the military, a lot of people in the military, silent heroes, are people you're never going to hear about. And be clear, not just military, any type of service, any type of, what's the word? People first, when you're a first responder,
Yeah.
you know, there's people that things are going to happen to them. You're never going to know about them. But also at the same time, we don't want you to know about us, because
Right.
if you know about us, that means something potentially went wrong, or maybe we didn't do our job, you know, and our job is protecting the nation or protecting people.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, a silent hero, or, you know, are those servicemen and women. And, you know, thank you for everyone over who has served, whoever's watching, who has served, wants to serve, or has family members that serve, because I think one thing that gets lost, it's not just a service member who serves. It's my wife who is serving with me, supporting me, so I can, you know, go up, be here, do the Coast Guard mission. And it's your wife too, you know, supporting you, you know, post-military career. And so I think silent hero, for me at least, when I first saw it, it's like the military, we're silent heroes, or military service members, we're silent heroes. We do what we're supposed to do and what we want to do for the better of other people, but it's not just us.
100%. And so it's a little bit of a triple meaning. It's the one that you got, so I'm glad that, you know, you took that off the bat. And then the other two. So one, my old unit used to be called Silent Warrior, the Silent Warriors.
Okay.
And so I took the warrior piece off and then added hero, because, you know, the obviously servicemen and women, you know, whether you're a first responder or you're a veteran or active duty, whatever it may be, you know,
I thought we just say for now servicemen. When we say service, we're including everyone. We don't want to disclude anyone. So if we say service, we're including everyone.
And so it's just a way to, you know, pay homage to those people as well. You know, people before me, people after me, you know, things of that nature. And then the last part of that name is actually the consumer. When you buy a product, you're having a direct hand in a veteran or a serviceman's recovery, you know, directly. You know, it's not like when, you know, like I used to go get my hair cut at Sport Clips, you know, when I was over back east. And, you know, you got Wounded Warriors is there, you know, God bless what they're doing. You know, and you pay for the haircut, you pay for the tip. And then they're like, hey, you know, can you donate a couple of dollars to Wounded Warrior? We're raising X amount of dollars. And for me, you know, as a young E2, you know, I didn't have money to blow. Like,
no, not at all.
And I used to feel terrible, you know, like, you know, I can't, or like I'd give like a couple bucks if I could, you know, but whatever. And with this company, you know, I wanted the consumer to feel like the hero as well, and somebody else's story, and they don't have to be recognized. Because not everybody likes to be up in the front and be the face and say, hey, I had a direct hand in that. You know, it's a bit uncomfortable. And so if I can take 10% out of my sale and immediately kick that over to, you know, an organization that'll help a vet with a service dog, or help them get their mind right, or, you know, hell, just go take a walk, you know, like anything I can do to keep one person off that ledge, you know, that's the goal. And I love the fact that my consumer, when you buy the product, you have a direct hand in that too. It's not just me and my company. You know, it's like on the website, you know, I put in there that this is a complete team effort. You know, it's not just about, you know, enjoying a premium cigar. You know, I hope you enjoy them and I hope you come back for more. But at the end of the day, you know, the mission is exactly what I need help with. And if I can get the help and you can have a hand in helping as well, you know, we can, you know, make it go down from 22 to 21. You know, that's the ultimate goal for the business.
Now, for anyone that doesn't know what that means, 22 to 21 is, you know, I think veteran suicides at 22 per day. Or is it per day?
Yeah, so I think they're starting to try to say it's up in the 40s, but they're starting to count the self-harm, and it's not reported. But for the most part, I believe it's still 22 a day. Yeah.
Gotcha. So any basically what we're trying to say, and what Bryce is, you know, if we can lower that number just by one, that makes a huge difference. That means there's another service member that's live gets saved. And, you know, suicides happen in the military. They happen for active duty and for veterans. You know, the stresses of life in the military, the stresses on people and what they're going through. You know, So it's not just for veterans too. Suicide is a real thing that happens in the military. Now, in terms of how long did it take you to come up with Silent Hero, or did you know right away that this is what you wanted to call it? Like, can you go through that process?
That's, I kind of was playing around with it, and I was just kind of like rattling stuff off to my wife, and I wanted to use that silent part, but I just didn't know like the second part.
Yeah.
And because like the stuff that I was coming up with, it just, it wasn't really meshing and gelling well as I thought it did.
Right.
Excuse me. And so I think I was outside literally just having a cigar and a cup of coffee, watching my son. He's 2, so to give you an idea.
Yeah.
He's just playing in the mud and living his best country life.
Of course.
And I was just like, what about Silent Hero? And that was about a year ago. And she was like, I like that. She was like, why don't you just sit on that and think about it, and think of what that means, like where did that come from, and really made me dive deeper into it, and not just making it a blanket or like a very shallow brand name. We could have some depth. And and that's to answer your question. It took me about a year to feel good about it, understand where I could go with it and make it make sense. And then as I started kind of digging and digging and digging, I was like, this is perfect. Everyone is a hero in the situation, and that is exactly what I'm wanting to convey to people.
Got it. So how long did you, first of all, what's your go-to, like, what are your go-to cigars? I hope if it's your cigar, it's your cigar, but what's your go-to cigar? How long have you been smoking cigars, and how'd you get this idea to, do this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. So, I mean, I've been smoking for about 8 years. Really my go-to cigar is, I believe they discontinued them, but Rocky Patel used to make the Super Ligero.
Okay.
And that was, between that and now I would say the Pissed Off Christoph is probably my go-to. So I like a dark, bold smoke, and I wanted to make sure that the Maduro that you're smoking actually wasn't as intense as the Christoph.
It's funny you say that, because it is not an intense Maduro. It's a very smooth Maduro, which is weird. So you hit it there, man.
And because I like the taste, and I like the spice behind the Pissed Off and the Super Ligero, but I would hate how it'd make me like, I would have to sit down. You know what I mean? Like, I'd have to sit down, and like, I'm not a stagnant person. Like, I like to move. If I'm smoking, that's probably the extent. But even then, like, I'm smoking and cutting the grass. I'm smoking and doing stuff with the farm. I'm not a very stagnant person.
Gotcha.
So to have something make me sit down, or like I would be a little nauseous, I wasn't.
Or you go to stand up and it's like, whoa, got to sit back down.
Yeah, and it's like, woo, I have to call the wife and have her grab me a bottle of water and put the coffee down.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, and then really with the cigar stuff, if I don't, I'll also go into that too. If I don't have either of those two, and I have the option to smoke the Maduro that you're smoking, I always smoke that. Like, it is fantastic.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like,
I'm enjoying the hell out of it right now.
Yeah, I mean, like, the first time I got that blend together, I smoked it down until it burnt my lip, and then I looked at the beautiful, with a burnt lip. And then what was the third part of your question?
How long did you know you wanted to start a cigar, like do your own line?
Yeah. So it was actually when I started playing around with stuff when I was in the service. So when I was back east, I actually got seeds, God knows where, man.
Did you start growing your own tobacco?
Yeah, and I started trying to grow my own tobacco. I had a grow light. I had the whole thing. I mean, I believe I still have. I'll have to send them to you. I have pictures from when they started to germinate.
Oh wow!
And dude, I was happy as could be. And then started to look up videos on how to roll cigars, and I was like, dude, I'm cooked. Like, there's no way. like there's, I can teach myself, quickly, but
Right.
for that, I don't have enough tobacco to play around to,
Right. Right.
jack some stuff up, and knowing my luck, it would come out, wonky and crooked, and it's like,
Right.
come on. And then when I moved out here, that's when I started to really, really get serious. So about 2 years ago, when I moved out to Wyoming, that's when I really started to get serious and started looking into importers and stuff like that that could either give me like a base blend that I could go off of,
Right.
or I could blend, have a hand in blending.
Yeah.
And so that's essentially what you're smoking now is, having that blend together, excuse me, and rolling from that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I'm hoping, I can't wait for you to try that Candela. So the Candela is an Indonesian wrapper with jalapa filler.
Oh, okay.
And it is, if you don't like Candelas, then,
I think I've had one Candela, and it was early on in my cigar journey, so I'm gonna revisit it. They always intrigue me, right? Because you go to a cigar shop, you see the brown, the light brown, the dark brown, maybe you see like a real Oscuro, and then you see the Candelas. You're like, oh, I don't know about that. But I'm of the mentality that the best cigar you have might be the next cigar you have, and so with that mentality, I want to try as many cigars as possible. So excited to try the Candela. So can you walk me through what you got, and I can kind of be the model here for you?
Yeah. And so, I mean, you just want to start with the Candela?
Yeah, sure.
So that is, obviously the Candela that we offer. All of our sticks are named after either a specific person, something tied, or it's tied into PTSD. So like the Maduro is the Founder's Choice Maduro. That's mainly, it's because that's
my Founder's Choice.
My favorite.
Straight into the point. Love it.
Yeah. And then the Candela is actually the Maverick. And so my son's name is Maverick, and my dog's name is Maverick. Now I will say I had my son before the dog.
Not like an Indiana Jones situation where he was named after the
dog. No, I had him first, and then I went in to go get a service dog, and they had puppies, and they had 1 year old, like a year old German Shepherd that was fully trained and certified federally.
Mm-hmm.
And and I was in such bad shape that I didn't even ask the dog's name. Like I was like, yeah, I'll take that one. And the puppies are cute. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, at a certain point, I need that help.
How much has Maverick made a difference in your life and your path to recover, getting? I don't know what the right term is, getting right or getting to a better place.
Oh, it's been like instrumental. I mean, I've been, for a long time, I was trying to figure out different things, go to sleep at different times, try to turn the TV off. But like in reality, it just, I had so much going on in the back of my mind that it didn't matter. Like it just truly didn't matter. And I had nothing there to interrupt that. And so once there's no interruption, it's just like free game.
Yeah.
And so living that way since 2021, and I got Maverick in 23. So, well, no, I take that back. I started having symptoms in 2020. Gotcha. And then got Maverick in 23.
What an awful time to start having symptoms of COVID and the world shut. Oh my God. Yeah.
And it was just impeccable timing. It's the whole phrase of when it rains, it pours.
Right.
My grandfather actually was like a father figure, and he passed away in 2019 prior. And so then 2020 started to kind of rear its head, whether that be with COVID or, with me starting to display outwardly of symptoms.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a pinball, and then got Maverick. And I mean, it's a complete 180 as to who you see today. I mean, I couldn't form sentences real good because 1, the sleep deprivation was so bad. And then 2, I had so much going on internally that, it was really hard to formulate a coherent sentence without, getting agitated or, really starting to just be different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when I got Maverick, that was a whole process within itself. Yeah, he's a 90-pound German Shepherd.
Big boy.
Yeah, he's a stout dog.
Mhm.
And my wife was attacked as a kid by dogs,
Oh, okay.
and so that was a hard sell trying to get her to be okay with a humongous dog that she's ever seen. Um,
Right.
so we tried him out for a weekend, and I mean the literally the first night, yeah, he put a paw on my arm and kind of moved his nails on me to get me to wake up
Yeah.
and pulled me out of the nightmare. And dude, I woke up with a I was going through the worst nightmare I think I've ever seen, and then woke up with a huge smile because I was like, dude, no way. You know, I finally
He
had
did. So Maverick just knew.
yeah, he just automatically knew. Like
Wow.
they start to smell that cortisol and that
Sure.
anxiety out. And so that it wakes him up every time. And he does the same thing. I mean, he gets up, he stretches, and then he sits down and puts his paw on you and like pulls at whatever skin is available, whether it be face, neck,
Right. Yeah.
whatever.
Dogs don't care.
No, he doesn't care. Like he's got me on the forehead before, and I've had one to work with a nice, slash on me. Um, but no, having him there to interrupt those nightmares, oh my goodness. Like it is a game changer for sure.
Well, that's awesome to hear, man. Now, more personal question: did you ever think PTSD could happen to you? Like, or is it just did it start? Obviously, it started manifesting, like you said, outward displays. But I don't think, as a service member, you ever think it can happen to you until you find yourself rock bottom or in a situation where, like, oh shit, you know?
Yeah. It was always just strange, like
Yeah.
I remember my first ever experience with seeing something just kind of like, whoa, like, all right. I remember I went home and told my wife and was like, hey, like, I kind of, saw something a little weird, like a little jacked up today. I don't
Yeah.
really know how that's sitting with me. And she was just like, oh, okay, like if you want to talk about it, I'm here. But if you can't, I understand. And
Yeah.
she just kind of led me to the kitchen and got me a bottle of water and just carried on.
Yeah.
It wasn't until about 5 months after that. I kind of was like, oh, okay, like I'm cool, like yeah, I'm good. It was just a little weird, and
Yeah.
and then I started. That's when it started to kind of wake me up and be like, yeah, dude, you're starting to have a bit of an issue here. Like my dreams started to get real graphic.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, wow, I was like, maybe that's just due to the content.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of was like really in denial, trying to make an excuse for things going on internally. And then I started having vertigo at 20 years old.
That's
and,
not wow.
Yeah. And so like they sent me to the ENT in Baltimore City, and they were like, dude, your ears are good, brother. Like, we don't really know what's going on.
No, yeah.
And they did hearing tests, and my left ear was just shot. Like, I couldn't hear anything out of my ear. And they were like dumbfounded. They were like, what? They were like, why is your left ear bad? And I was like, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, right. You're supposed to be telling me why.
I was like, that's why I'm here, dude. And then sure enough, I went to go see a therapist, and she actually was like, dude, like, what are you doing? Because I started and that was months later after seeing the ENT. Like I started getting bad migraines to the point where my nose would start bleeding.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and like I'd start getting nauseous, and I'd start like almost like heart really racing as soon as I'd get to to the job site, and I just was like, dude, what the hell? Like almost getting angry at it, and went to go see her, and she was like, dude, like PTSD isn't how it's portrayed in the movies.
Right.
Some people, they will display that, but she was like, what they don't capture is there's something called psychosomatic bodily symptoms, and your body starts to attack itself to keep you from doing what is causing trauma. And
so was the ear a result of that then?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so when COVID happened, they took me out of the workplace because evidently, they were like, well, he might have immunocompromised stuff going on, like,
Right.
try to protect him as much as you can. and my hearing literally recovered in 3 months.
Wow.
And it didn't even make any sense because I went from it was always kind of this like low muffled noise and like a nice ring to it.
Hmm.
And then like a month and a half into it, I was like, man, I'm like I can hear my wife talk to me from this side.
Yeah.
And then 3 months go by and I go in and see my therapist and she's like, how you doing? And I'm like, I feel like $1,000,000. I was like, I feel fantastic.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, okay. She's like, well, you go back to work next week, right? And I was like, yeah. And literally that next week was my last week.
Gotcha.
And because I was like, dude, I can't. Because it just completely started to deteriorate me again so rapidly that I was like, man, I've got to be done. I can't keep going,
Now, did all this happen post-military, or did you just recently get out of the military? I should have asked that.
Oh, you're good. No, I got out in 21. And so, like I said, I started having issues towards the tail end of my service.
Gotcha.
And so it kind of, I don't want to say worked out, but like it helped, if that makes sense, like make that decision of, do I want to keep going, or, is this where I want to, take a pull the plug and just go my own separate way and move somewhere where I got some good country and get some peace and quiet and just relax.
And for every service member, there will come a time where either the service doesn't need you anymore, or you personally are like, this is not for me. And I have not reached that point yet. I hit 10 years. I just made 04, so I'm guaranteed my 20 years. So my plan is to stay in for 20. But leaving the military is just as hard as entering the military, because and also making that decision, from what I've heard, is when you've served and you've given everything and you've sacrificed and your family has sacrificed, and that decision is like, do I leave the military? It weighs for all those listening. It weighs heavily on military members, because our sense of duty and obligation is not just to the country, but it's also to our brothers and sisters in arms too. And as a military member, you sometimes feel like you're letting them down. It's like, but at the same time, you have to make the decision that's best for you and your family at that time. Now, before we get to the second cigar, if you had to do it all over again, would you still join the military, or would you not?
I definitely would. I mean, I've got a bunch of friends that like I knew from high school that I've known for years now. And a bunch of them, they went through, one went through the Naval Academy. The one went through, forgive me, I can't remember the Marine officer
training school or whatever.
Training school. And then my other buddy went through ROTC, and they're all three commissioned officers.
Yep.
And they had all three asked me, like, is this something that I want to do? And I'm like, brother, like, my experience doesn't have to dictate your experience.
Right.
You can have something completely different. Like, if you want to serve your country, go do it, dude. Like, I'm never going to deter anybody from that. Like, go do that. Right. Just because, like I said, I had that experience, that doesn't mean it's applicable to you, and it happens to everyone.
And on your message of go out and serve, the Coast Guard military at large, we are facing one of the biggest recruitment challenges and deficits in military history. There's a generation of younger that the desire and wanting to serve it's not held as highly, in the minds of the younger people. And so the Coast Guard, for example, we are at a deficit of 3,000 enlisted people right now.
Really?
So which is the Coast Guard is a small service. So for those of you guys that don't know, the Coast Guard is the size of the New York City Police Department. We're about 45,000 active duty. And think about how much the Coast Guard covers, and then how much we do internationally now as well. And we're short 3,000 enlisted people. And, the Coast Guard motto is do more with less, but it's definitely a challenge. And so, that's really encouraging to hear you say, go out and serve. My experience doesn't have to be your experience. And it might be, it might not be. You may have a completely different experience, but, as someone active duty military right now, if you want to serve, you have the desire to serve, go and do it. And it doesn't just have to be joining the military. Like the service, serve whatever we're calling it, go out and serve, and don't be afraid to. because I think, you know, there are fantastic moments. You create bonds with people that you never thought you could create. And so there are a lot of benefits, but obviously there is the post-military life where it gets dicey, you know, and there's no way around that.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you gotta. I mean, like serving too. I mean, like I'd do it all over again because, like, you know, it's the camaraderie, and it's that unspoken bond at all of, you know, even if, you know, you and I met in person and we, you know, no Instagram anything, and
Yeah.
you know, start chatting, and you're like, oh well, I'm an O4 in the Coast Guard, you know, and I'm like, oh no kidding, like you know,
You might make a joke about me being in the Coast Guard, and then we would move on to the conversation. But
yeah, you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, and it's a complete brotherhood, or, you know, it's a complete family from that point forward.
yeah,
And it's that unspoken, um, you know, I got your back.
right,
Don't worry about it. You know,
absolutely.
and it's hard to say that about a complete stranger that's not in that
Yeah,
in that boat. You know what I mean? Not that all people are bad, don't get me wrong, but like,
right.
you know what I mean?
Oh, I know. I know exactly what you mean. You know, the second you start talking to someone and there's a connection to, for me, what's crazy is everywhere I go, I meet someone that has a connection to the Coast Guard in some way, whether they know someone in the Coast Guard, they've been saved by the Coast Guard. But whenever I interact with another military member, like you said, and you're only going to know this if you're in the military, it's an instant connection. It's an instant understanding of, you went through some sort of basic training. I went through some basic training. There's a set of, you know, our services have core values and whatnot. They're different, but at the end of the day, it's the same goal, and that's, you know, protecting the United States. And so that bond is something that like you said, it's an unspoken bond.
Yeah, no, entirely.
All right, so moving on to the next cigar. I think this looks like is it a Connecticut?
Connecticut, yep.
Yep. So tell us about this one.
So that's the Chachi. So that's actually named. I still have a good friend of mine that we served together in the Army. His brother actually was a combat guy downrange, came home from deployment, and then, you know, passed away from his battle with PTSD. And so that cigar within itself is a way to keep his legacy, you know, honor him, you know, keep everything moving forward, you know, not let his name get, you know, be forgotten, you know, at all.
Can you tell us a little bit about him and who he was?
I unfortunately, I never had the pleasure of meeting him.
Okay.
You know, I knew his brother, his brother Mike. You know, stand up dude. You know, I love the guy to death. You know, him and we met when I first got to my duty station, and it was like an immediate friendship. And then, you know, you started kind of seeing him less, and then I believe he actually went to his brother's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike is a really sweet dude, but, you know, top to bottom, even, you know, before or after. And you could always just kind of see it a little bit, you know, like he was kind of beat up by it. And, you know, I always wanted to do whatever I could to show him and his family support and love, and, you know, let them know that when I'm doing this and I'm advocating for people with PTSD, you know, I want to make sure that, you know, their son or their brother is, you know, right alongside me no matter what.
Absolutely. That's awesome, man. I will definitely keep that in mind when I get to smoking that cigar. So to take a break from the cigars, obviously this has been a very heavy conversation about PTSD and whatnot. What are some of your better memories from the military? You got any funny stories? You know, in the Coast Guard, we call them sea stories. So I mean, I'm curious to hear any story that comes to your mind, like right away, like, oh crap, that was really funny shit.
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. And it's not all dark, you know, in the military, at least. And even in my case, it wasn't all dark, you know, like you still have, you know, people being crazy, you know, doing crazy stuff. You know, a buddy of mine that I used to work with, you know, they actually stopped us from going home for lunch because he went back to his barracks and started pounding natty lights in his barracks room.
Oh, good.
And unluckily for him, you know, our first sergeant and command sergeant major were doing room inspections, and they just walked in, and he's got 2 or 3 beer cans just sitting there on the table.
Oh God.
And so we lost our privilege to go back to the barracks.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
no, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead.
I got a funny story about myself. So I get seasick. So I know that's funny. I'm in the Coast Guard. I get seasick. I've only spent two years out of my 10 years at sea. Those are my first 2 years after I graduated from the academy. And I remember one time, it was like one of my last patrols on my ship, and I was going to go on it was not quite a boarding. We were going to a Navy vessel to basically take. They had suspects in custody, and they were transferring them to us. And so on one of our ships, the small boat is in a notch in the back, and then basically the back of the ship opens and the boat launches out that way. Well, it was like 6 to 8 foot seas, 6 to 9 foot seas, and in order to launch the boat, you have to be in the trough. So the boat is just going like this while you're launching the boat. So I get in the boat, I turn to my second class petty officer, who's the coxswain, who's driving the boat, and I go, "The second you pull out, I'm gonna puke my brains out." And he's like, "All right." So the rear door opens, pulls out. I turn and I puke my brains out. He's laughing, and he just turns to me and goes, "You good?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." And that that was it. But another story of puking my brains out. It was a really I was on smaller boats. So I was on a 110-foot cutter, which was a crew of 18, and then a fast response cutter, which is a crew of 24. So I'm very used to that close, tight knit crew. A lot of people. There's another topic: officer enlisted relationship. In the Coast Guard, we work so closely, especially in a lot of life and death situations where you have to be close to your crew. There's a line, and you don't cross that line, but at the same time, you got to know, they got to know who you are, and you got to know who they are, because at the end of the day, you got to trust them that if you fall in the water, if something goes wrong, they're going to be right there to grab you and pick you up. But we were in really rough seas. I had to puke. I shared a stateroom with the E7, and I ran down from the bridge. My FS2, so my food specialist second class, blowing up my bathroom, so I couldn't puke in my bathroom. And I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? So I literally grabbed my bucket. I grabbed the bucket. I have tears rolling down my face. I grab a bucket, and I'm sitting in my stateroom with the door open. It's puking my brains out. And he comes out and looks at me and goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry, man." I'm like, "It's okay. I'll survive." But,
good gracious, man.
Some good sea stories. All right, so let's move on. So was number 3 the Maduro, or is that number 4? Oh, what do I got here?
So that looks like the box press, maybe?
Yes, that's the box press.
Yeah, so the box press it's called the Legacy box press.
Okay.
And so essentially it's kind of what me and you were stumbling over is it's paying homage to not just myself or people that are currently going through PTSD issues. It's for everyone that has fallen to it, where they've come out the other end and they're doing great. It's a way to pay homage, and it doesn't matter if you're law enforcement, whatever. It's a way to keep everyone underneath that umbrella of this is your legacy. You set a legacy, whether that be I'll backtrack. You set the legacy when you decide to keep moving. So for me, like, there was a very defining point where I wanted to keep moving. And so part of that was, I want to have my own cigar business, but I just don't know yet.
Right.
But eventually I will have it. And it's a matter of just keep moving. And that cigar is, playing off of that, setting that legacy going forward,
No, that's awesome, man. I'm sitting here gathering my thoughts. I love the story that the line tells. I can tell that a lot of thought has been put into this, and you kind of got the struggle, and you got the other side of it. It's just a really cool story, and whoever thought that cigars would be the way to tell that story? And I'm sure it's therapeutic in a sense to be able to talk about it and say, like, this is, and I think one thing that we learn in the cigar community is you can connect with so many people, and cigars can tell a story. And I so far, man, you're doing a great job telling the story. The Maduro is fantastic. I like, it has the subtleties of the bold flavors, but it's not like in your face. And I know it's not going to put me on my ass just from, smoking it down. So I hope that's what you intended with the Maduro.
100%. Yeah. I wanted something that you could smoke that at like a barbecue, and you could be moving around, doing things with your family, and you're not like, ooh, I need to take a seat for a minute,
Yeah, or get the glazed look in your eyes, like, whoa, I'm here, but I'm not really here,
Yeah, I always say, I wanted to make sure I created something that didn't make you question life decisions,
Yeah.
up until that point. You wanted to, you
That's
want
a
to
motto for that's a motto for the military, questioning life decisions.
especially when you crack open a nice, pork MRE. That'll make you question everything.
Our on that so in the Coast Guard we didn't have MREs. We had a chef, we had cooks on the boat. One cook, he played a really sick joke on us one day. It was like one of the roughest days, and he made like pasta and like meatballs, and so something like really heavy.
Nice.
I'm sure I puked it up, and there was just like red sauce coming out. He knew exactly what he was doing. I think someone must have pissed him off because he tried his best. Not the best FS I've had, but someone must have said something about his food, and he said, "I'm going to get you guys back." Yeah. And so he waited for like the heaviest sea day. He's like, "I'm going to make pasta tonight," and it messed all of us up.
He's like, "I'm going to show you guys."
Right? Exactly. You don't like my food? Well, here you go.
Yeah, here you go. I hope you like puking in that toilet or bucket,
Right, exactly. So let's get in. So I'm smoking Maduro, obviously. Let's get into the final cigar I got here.
So that is I did 2 Habanos for, clearly for the fact that I just like box presses.
Okay.
And I couldn't get the blend right in the Maduro. It was either too light or it was too bold. And I just didn't like that. It wasn't that happy medium that you're smoking right now.
Right.
And so with that cigar is the blend 88. And I'm sure, do you follow Jersey Cigar Mafia?
I do. I'll be honest. I just moved. My entire life has changed. I went from Washington, D.C. to here. So I have not been on the social medias as much as I should be as a cigar person, but I do know Jersey Cigar Mafia.
Okay. Yeah. His brother, Mike Felice. So Frank is the guy I'm talking to, Frank. Yeah. His brother, Mike, was a lieutenant in the New Jersey Police Department and was involved in a.
I'm from New Jersey, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm Jersey boy, Jersey born and raised.
That makes sense. Mike was involved in an officer-involved shooting, a fatal officer-involved shooting, so he actually went on. There's a podcast called the Suffering Podcast, and so he was actually a co-host on there for quite a bit. But episode 9 of that podcast is where he talks about that officer-involved shooting and how it really changed him, where he started to feel symptoms of PTSD and stuff like that. And the Suffering Podcast is exactly that. Like, they put a huge spotlight on PTSD. They're big advocates over there. Like, I love what those guys are doing. And they tackle it from the first responders' point of view.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, I believe 2 or 3 months ago, Mike Felice took his life. And his brother reached out to me about 2 months ago and never met the guy, Mike or Frank. And, so Frank reached out to me and was just like, "Hey, I love what you're doing. I'm trying to work with Dogs Inc. and help them raise some money to, supply service dogs with vets." And I was like, "Oh, that's perfect. I love that mission. I hope you guys, I'd love to be able to support any which way I can, whether it be financially or, whatever, just let me know." And then he personally was like, my brother, Mike Felice, was on this podcast, and, check out episode 9. My brother passed away, a month back. Let me know what you think. And so I actually came to him and was like, "Hey, this is my cigar line." This was way before I had the website up and everything.
Yep.
And was just like, "Hey, dude, like, this is what I want to do with my cigar line. I want to kind of tell a story here about, keeping it honest, keeping it real with people that, PTSD isn't something that you should sweep under the rug, because it takes people. And, we can help by reducing that by just putting a spotlight on it. If people are uncomfortable by it, well, hell, I'll do it, if anything to save, a brother or sister of mine. I don't care.
Of course.
And so I was like, this is what I'm doing. Can you tell me a little bit more about Mike? If you're comfortable with that, would you be open to actually having him, having his name or something affiliated with him as the cigar, for the Habano? And so he told me his badge number, and his badge number is actually 088. And so I used the word blend to kind of make it look like kind of like a lot number, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
And so in the beginning, it was like, I wanted to protect his privacy and, be respectful to his family too.
Of course.
But if you knew Mike, you would know immediately what that meant. And Frank was like, dude, no, like you can put his name in there. Like, I love the cigar. Like, dude, just do it. And so that's the backstory behind that one. And it's really cool too. And it's really hits home for me because, I never met Mike, but seeing him constantly on there on those podcasts and constantly being an advocate himself, even though he was clearly having something going on in the back that he didn't show.
Right.
That's dude, that's a strong human being. That is it. Like I want to honor that human being in any which way I possibly can because, he was fighting the fight and he was also trying to help other people fight. Like that's a true warrior, and I gotta tip my hat and I gotta pay homage to that. I just can't not.
Yeah. Now, question: have you found comfort in listening to other veterans or other service members that have had PTSD and hearing their experience and their story and make you kind of feel like I'm not alone in this?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the biggest thing for me that was really hard and, that would contribute to a lot of the anger issues was, you would feel like a weirdo, like you would just feel so strange, like the things that they don't, kind of touch on with the PTSD. I mean, in movies where, you see, like, what's it called? The American Sniper with Chris Kyle.
Yeah. Yep.
Homage to him, like where he's sitting there with a beer bottle in his hand, staring at a blank TV.
Right. I remember that scene. Yep.
That is the most. I mean, that actually choked me up when I saw that because my wife had actually, kicked me in the shin once because I was sitting there staring at the microwave when there was nothing in it. There was nothing on. Like I thought everything was happening, but there was nothing going on. And so you kind of start to feel like a little bit of an outcast there in that regard. And you understand that people don't really understand what's going on inside your mind, and it's hard to articulate it and just all of that. And so when you hear someone that also raises their hand and they're like, hey, I feel that too, brother. Don't sweat that, like, and then it turns into not just so much of a bond, but like you have such a good personal relationship with that person that it's like unwavering. I've met one gentleman that came up that is actually from Oklahoma. He's a retired Navy, and he fights with PTSD as well. And I mean, dude, I can, he's called me randomly. He goes through it too, and I can call him at any point, and I know that he knows exactly what to say, what to do. It provides so much more comfort in that regard. So I mean, no, I love it when people come up or like they recognize that I have a service dog. So I mean, it's not too hard to tell. And,
right.
And they come up and my dog kind of like looks at them. You know how German Shepherds have floppy ears, or not floppy ears?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, my German Shepherd is a bit of a weirdo. He's got floppy ears until you have a problem or until he senses a problem with someone. And then those ears point straight to the sky. And I love it because people will recognize the dog. I've got the U.S. Army, just nameplate on the dog.
Awesome.
And, people will come up and just be like, hey, man, I love the dog. Thank you for your service. And the dog is, pinging that person's also having a problem. And then just saying, like, were you prior service too? Or,
oh, wow. So your Maverick has been a way for you to kind of start that conversation with someone. Wow. That's awesome.
And then it kind of starts to turn into, well, do you want to pet him? He's starting to alert that you're having a bit of an issue too. And, though, like a couple of times their eyes get real big and they're like, yeah, man, like my heart's kind of racing a little bit, and then they'll pet the dog and then they'll settle down and, and you're just talking the whole time.
Wait, where are you from originally?
So I'm originally from like the Baltimore area.
God,
Baltimore
because you said dog, like you said dog, like from the northeast. So
Yeah.
I picked up on something there.
Yeah.
But so we went through all your cigars. Awesome story. I love the story it tells. It pays homage to military, it pays homage to police, it pays homage to your family and whatnot. What would you say to someone who's suffering suffering with PTSD right now? And what would you say to that person? What would service member?
I mean, the main thing I would say is, one, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that suffer from it too. You just have to get into the right community and the right support system that will uphold you.
Yeah.
Even on the dark, even on your most challenging days. And the saying that, I use even to this day, and I leaned on it heavy, is, let's just give it one more day. And that was a commitment to myself that I wasn't going to make any drastic decisions, and I was just going to wait for it one more day, and I would just keep living that way. And so I lived that way since 2020, and and it's like compound interest.
Yeah.
One thing leads to another, and then you kind of step back a little bit. And the other thing I would say too is, PTSD is like an up and down roller coaster.
Yeah.
And once you embrace that and you shift that mentality to, it's not like I might use a bad example here, but like if you're trying to quit drinking,
Yeah.
and then even when you quit drinking, I would imagine you'd have a really trying, tempting day.
Sure.
But then you just walk away from it, and the next day, or maybe whenever it resets, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of that same way. It's not like an infection or an illness, where you can take some medicine and it goes away. No, you're still gonna have good days. You're gonna have your baseline, and then you're gonna have days that are bad. And then once you recognize that and you can kind of get into that mentality, you start to not put so much weight on really bad days. You're just
Yeah.
kind of like, well, like, yeah, I've been doing really strong, like it's cool. Like maybe I'll take it a little easier today, get my obligations done, do them 100%. But, maybe we'll have a cigar today and we'll sit down.
Yeah.
We'll take the time to sit down. Or if something, like in my situation, like with my wife, if I'm having a bad day and something's weighing on me, dude, I just wink at her, and she just is like, okay, well, give me a second. Like we can sit down and have a conversation.
Right.
And it's that simple. But you need to talk. That's the other thing too, is you need to talk, and you need to not let things fester, because it's like, it'll be like an infection. The longer you ignore the infection, the worse it spreads, and the worse it starts to build up. And talking, it's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's very challenging and very difficult. But if you can just do it once, you can do it twice. And then it starts to compound.
And what cigars, what an amazing platform, to do this through cigars. And once we get off this chat, if you don't mind sending me links for veteran PTSD resources, I'm going to post it in the link below. So if a veteran or service member comes across this live and they're struggling, we can try to make the resources better, do our part, and try to just give them the access to those resources. But so obviously you just launched. Congratulations on the launch. How's it go? Yeah, I'm trying to get happier here. How's the launch going? What is the vision for Silent Hero Cigar? Are you is this the vision, and are you happy with it? And where do you see it going?
So the launch is going well. I feel like, again, it's just building that rapport with people, making sure that people understand that, one, the delivery time isn't huge. Everything, once you purchase the product is out the door.
Yeah, I saw that. I got mine within 3 days. So
yeah. So it's literally like, I staged and prepped everything as soon as I got it. And as soon as everything was ready to go, and I was able to really, once you bought, I can just throw it in a box or throw it in a bag, put the packing label on, and I can just send it out the door.
Yeah.
And there's no waiting, there's no 2 weeks, there's no 4 days, 5 days, you get it like as quick as you possibly
Yeah.
can without it being like overnight crazy shipping. But the launch is going good. I'm trying to do everything I can to kind of keep that momentum, progressing
Absolutely.
forward. And again, just because with everything being live and active, I can really start to have that tangible impact in these people's lives, and so can everyone else. And so it's a matter of just portraying that to people, but also trying to say, hey, have faith in my product. you know so it's refreshing to hear that you like the blend.
Oh yeah, man.
I really hope that the rest of them go just as smooth. And then really the main goal that I have is I really want to start to kind of get into cigar shops and have these boxes up on shelves and be able to start to push volume out the door. That way, again, it's a matter of just trying to secure as much funding for getting these people resources that I possibly can. Because it isn't cheap. Like the dog that I have is $6,000. Like they're not cheap dogs, and they're not, and even the services themselves, like they're not cheap services. And whether that be at no cost to the person, it's definitely a cost to the 501c or the nonprofit. So being able to kind of keep their doors open as well as keep our lights on is the biggest goal here. And then obviously the other big goal that kind of goes in tandem with that is just the reduction in veteran suicide. That's the other big one.
Now, have you enjoyed this process, and what was the blending experience like? And I know we're about an hour here, but I'm really enjoying this conversation. What was the blending process like? Was it exciting? Was it stressful? Can you walk me through that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, really finding the right person to do the blend was the more challenging part, and the kind of the part that gives you a headache, because some people are just trying to, they're trying to give you their service, but they're trying to take your money, most importantly.
Right. Of course, right.
Yeah, I mean, like they're not interested in the repeat customer coming back.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like that's unacceptable. The company obviously will live off of repeat customers. And if I give you a stick that's half short filler, half long filler, you're like, dude, I'm not buying that again. And so that part of the process was a bit agitating. I'll say that, because you wholeheartedly, I just wanted people to be honest. That was the biggest thing for me, is be honest about the product and about the process and all of that. And so the fun part obviously is smoking the different blends and starting to kind of get into that. And because at that point you're smoking for a completely different purpose. Right. It goes from fun hobby, which is very enjoyable, to okay, now I've got a notepad out and now I'm looking at this thing head to toe and I'm picking it apart.
Right.
And with any other cigar, like if you get like a brick house, JC Newman brick house, you're not, you'll look it over to make sure there's no cracks and imperfections and stuff like that. But ultimately you're like, yeah, this is going to be good, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And, in that situation, that I found myself in, it's like, okay, well, I got to really pick this thing apart, because, half short filler, half long filler is actually what I encountered. Mm-hmm. And so the front half was long fill, which I was like, oh, okay, like that's cool. And I thought it was weird because like the back end was
like spongy.
And I was like, well, maybe they just packed it a little loose. And so I was like, well, let's see what that's about. And then got through the long fill, which should be the whole cigar.
Right.
But in this case, it was only half. And then I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. That's not really holding an ash at all. Mm-hmm. And so I was looking at it, and every time I'd puff, it would just look like it's snowing. It would just blow everywhere. And so I took it, took my knife and just sliced it open.
Yep.
And it was like,
sure enough, was it like clear, like long filler and then short? You could see it.
Oh yeah, it was like a clear cutoff. And so immediately went inside, and I had 9 more because there was just different base blends.
Yep.
And just immediately felt them all. and they all had the same consistency.
Oh, you must have been like, God damn, you must have been pissed.
Oh, I was furious. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
like, called them back and was like, dude, I need my money back.
Yeah,
Like,
right. Yeah, exactly. At that point.
yeah, like, I'll ship these out. Like, I didn't, cut them all. I didn't do any. Like, I only destroyed one. I
Mhm.
was like, but I can't. I need a full premium long fill. Like, I told you that I
Yeah.
needed full long fill, and I got half cigar, half cigarette. Like,
Yeah.
like what's going on? And
Right.
but no, once I started to kind of pinpoint that search to like reputable importers that were actually doing it and were really successful at it and would have different catalogs for you to look at and different base blends to go from, that's when it started to get fun and where you could start to
Yeah.
kind of play around with things and put things in, take things out. It was just spectacular. Like that's the fun part.
Do you know more about cigars now than you ever thought you would know, being like intimately involved in this process?
I definitely. I mean, you're definitely a lot more like engulfed in it.
Yeah.
Like I understand the Viso Seco, Ligero, but it never. I don't know. Like it's hard to explain. Like in the beginning, I wasn't really smoking. Like what type of wrapper, or not wrapper, but what type of binder and what growing region did it come from? I just was
Right.
like, oh, this is the brand that I like. Oh, it's strong. Like I'm gonna go and have a cigar. But now that it's like, okay, well, I want to see how much the flavor changes when I add a little bit of Ligero
Yeah.
into, say, like the Candela. Like, what if I add a little bit of Ligero into the Candela? And it's like, oh, well, that makes it insanely different, and it
Right.
almost makes it unenjoyable. And so it's like, okay, well, we're gonna take that back out, and we're gonna keep the Seiko Biso, and then we're just gonna go with that.
And the
Yeah.
cigar rabbit hole, I'm going to call it, because I think when at least as a person who does social media with cigars, the journey started with just like you said, smoking a cigar for enjoyment. But then you can start doing some research, find out where the regions my first like big cigar video that I watched was actually a history of Cuba and how the families all left Cuba, went to Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, Honduras, but it's a rabbit hole because there's so much you can, and that's one of the things that I really liked about it was I was finished with grad school. I was some years removed from grad school, and I was kind of yearning for like something else to learn.
Mhm.
And for better or for worse, for my wallet, it happened to be cigars.
Yeah.
But there's so much information. There's so many reviews out there where you can just absorb so much knowledge and learn so much there is to know about cigars. And the rabbit hole just continues and continues and continues.
Oh, it'll make your head spin.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, man.
it's really and that's why I think it's so interesting with people where some people think that cigars are just tobacco and that's it. And it's like, brother, like it is not just tobacco. Like it is not just picked, aimlessly and then just shoved into the wrapper or bind it up and, then put the wrapper leaf on and then you're just tobacco. And it's like, no, dude, like it's so much more complex than that.
Oh, yeah.
That the master roller title is like actually a thing. Like,
oh yeah, man.
Like,
now, as I'm smoking your cigar, I'm in the final third here. The flavors picked up actually.
yeah,
So it's transitioned. It was that subtle, and then in this final third here, the flavors it's a little more. It's still not like overpowering, but it's picking up a little bit, and it's giving me a little warm feeling, which I really enjoy in a cigar.
yeah. And so essentially, what we tried to do with that was make that, because obviously the tobacco or the smoke rather doesn't have as much time to cool through the tobacco as when it's fully, whatever.
Right.
And so we wanted to kind of play off of that. So we wanted the smoke to not necessarily burn your mouth, but we wanted it to ignite the flavors in the back end.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're going to have one or the other, like I wanted to make it a little bit stronger of a cigar rather than the smoke coming in your mouth is just super hot and then you're just burning your mouth.
And so many cigars tail off too in that final third where, and I went through a period of time and I'm at that, I've smoked so many cigars that if I'm getting through the cigar and I'm not enjoying it, I'm going to put it down. I mean, I can go grab another cigar, but so many cigars start off amazing. There's been so many times where I've smoked a cigar for a review or a post, and I'm smoking like, oh, this might be like a top cigar. This is great. And by that final third, it's really died off and the flavors are subtle. And then you start getting that bitter, that bitter flavor. And you're like, what happened? Like it was, it happened so quick too.
Yeah. No. And that was the thing too, that I really wanted to make sure it didn't happen, because like, I love the final third.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love that business end of the cigar.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, that's kind of what does it for me. Is that's kind of really what makes that one my favorite. I love the beginning and the middle where it's nice and subtle and it's real smooth. Like it's, it doesn't give you a real crazy aftertaste. Like it's just good. It's clean. And then in that third business end, it's like, that's where it starts to heat up. And that's where, cause that'd be a bit pungent all the way through. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. I know, like, after I smoke a cigar, my wife makes me shower, and then I have to use mouthwash at least twice, brush my teeth at least twice every time. And I get into bed, and she still goes, "You smell awful." And I'm like, "There's nothing I can do."
I share that with you. Don't worry,
Bryce. I've been grilling you on questions for the past hour and 10 minutes. Do you have any questions for me? I want to give you a break from talking and turn it back on me. I'm nearing the end of the cigar, so we don't have to stay on much longer. But I just wanted to open it up to you if you had any questions for me or anything.
Yeah, man. I listened to one of your videos that you had on Instagram. Are you starting one too?
Yeah. So I hit this point in my cigar journey where I kind of wanted to do more with it. And as a military officer, go-getter, I'm like, what's next? We're always thinking about the next things. And for me, I'm at that 10-year mark in my career where it's kind of I'm unfortunately in the tail end now. My goal is to make 05 and then retire at 20. My wife and I made an agreement that at 20 years it's her show because she'll have been following me around for 15 years, and so turn it back over to her to control things. Family life will dictate that. I always said that as long as I'm having fun and enjoying the Coast Guard, I'm gonna stay in. And that's exactly what I've been able to do. And I haven't had that moment yet where I'm like, what am I doing? I still wake up when I put on the uniform and I still have a sense of pride. And so kind of, I started my cigar journey, started the Instagram, hit 1,000 followers, been on Smoking Sounds Pod. That's who you see right there. Justin is an awesome guy. Highly recommend connecting with him. I think his podcast would be a great platform for you to talk about your brand and also the PTSD. But kind of was doing lives, was doing podcasts. I'm like, what's next? What can I do to kind of really see if I know what I'm talking about? To me, it was a challenge. And so I'm kind of thinking post Coast Guard. What do I do post Coast Guard in terms of what can I do to enjoy my time? And so I got this idea, I had the crazy gringo brand. I'm like, let me play around with making a blend and seeing if people like it. So through Smoking Sounds Pod, they have a local cigar shop in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it's a master blend experience. And like you said, it's not cheap; it's expensive. And so I submitted a flavor profile, and I had some of his cigars before, and I liked them. And so I submitted a flavor profile of the flavors that I liked, and I submitted 5 cigars that I really enjoyed. So I think my cigars were all over the place. One of them was the Cohiba Riviera, which has a lot of spice. Like some people hate that cigar because it's a pepper bomb. I love that cigar. The Arturo Fuente Hemingway short story is one of my go-to cigars. I like the Adventura Queen's Pearl because of the creaminess and the buttery. So it was like I sent him all this stuff, and 3 weeks had gone by, and I didn't hear anything. So I sent him a message. I'm like, "Hey, Tomas, what's going on?" He goes, "Dude, I'm still trying to get through all your cigars. Also, I'm trying to figure out how all these cigars connect and how they're similar and whatnot." So I gave him a real challenge. And so I kind of documented the blending process. So he put together the blend for me, and then it was back and forth with him trying to perfect it to what I wanted it. Yeah. And he made 2 blends for me. One was a Connecticut. So it was really cool. I got the individual leaves that made up each individual cigar. Then I got a naked cigar that had no wrapper on it to really taste as we know, most of the flavor comes from the wrapper, but that was really cool. And then I had the 2 wrapper cigars. And at the end of the day, I decided I like each of these. I like the Connecticut for these reasons, and I like the Sumatra for these reasons. So I decided to get both of them, and then kind of did a launch for it. And one of the coolest moments, actually, my wife and I had a huge blowout going away party in Washington, D.C. We were stationed there for 6 years, which in the military, being stationed anywhere for 6 years, I mean, that rarely happens. That's a long time to be in one place. So we had developed really close friends, who we miss dearly. But at our blowout party, I was able to hand out my cigar to all my buddies. And so I actually have a picture of everyone smoking my cigar. And the feedback on the Connecticut was incredible. And
That's awesome.
I still haven't done the reviews on my cigars, and there are going to be no bullshit reviews. Like right now, the Connecticut is a banger, and that seems to be except for one guy. One guy I sent it to who won a giveaway. He said, "Dude, I don't know what was in that cigar. It put me on my ass." And I was like, "Are you talking about the Connecticut?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Holy!" Like, so that one outlier. We'll discard the outlier, but the Connecticut is a really nice spring summer cigar, really smooth. That one is like ready for prime time. It's a banger. The Sumatra is in a torpedo format, and I think it just needs age. It's a Ecuadorian Sumatra, so it's a darker wrapper. And for me, is more of a cold weather cigar because it gives you that warm feeling, and so that's like a fall time winter cigar. Yeah. So that's kind of where it is. And where is it right now? I'm in the research and development phase. I'm really trying to figure out, do people like a blend that I put together because as we know, cigars are subjective. The cigar you love may be a cigar I hate and vice versa. But the fact that I'm getting positive feedback says, okay, I got a good palate. I can put something together that's good that people are going to enjoy. Yeah. And so I'm still in that research and development phase and potentially lining myself up for post Coast Guard, getting fully into the cigar business. So that's kind of the big outlook.
Dude, that's awesome, brother. I love that for you.
Yeah, man. That. And the name of them, and Sean was actually on the launch live. So I named my cigar the Homage, and I'm Peruvian and Polish. So the cigar, the name the Homage, it pays homage to both my Peruvian and Polish heritage. So the band on it, and I'll send you two of them. I'll send you each blend. It's Incan. So as you guys see on the logo, it's an Incan who should be playing an Incan flute, but he's smoking a cigar. And then it's the white Polish eagle in the background. So that's the band for the Homage.
That's awesome, man. And thank you. Yeah, dude, I'd love to have a smoke at those.
Absolutely. Well, next time we do this, because I want to have you on again, and because since now we got all the hard questions out of the way, next time we do this, it can be more of a chill, actual relaxed environment. Not that this isn't chilling, but we covered some heavy topics, but I would love to smoke a cigar with you, and it would be, I'll smoke another one of yours and you can smoke mine. I think that would be a really cool live there. But you got anything else for me, man?
I just really want to say thank you, brother. Like I really do. Man. I really appreciate the time, and I appreciate you taking the leap of faith, if you will, with buying some crazy dude cigars all online. And I really do try to keep it not as heavy as I possibly can. But at the same time, it just kind of comes with the territory, and people have the very misconception that people that go through PTSD aren't happy people. I live with it every day, and man, I love it. I love life. I would love the opportunity to be able to sit there with somebody and just chat.
Yeah.
And you don't even think about anything else. You think about what the other person in front of you is saying, and that's it.
Absolutely, man.
And
no, absolutely, man. And you know what? It all started with just a message. And I think that's whether for suffering PTSD or someone in the cigar community trying to make a friend. All my friends in the cigar community have been made by just a simple message like, hey, man, I saw a post of yours. What do you think about that cigar? And then that conversation takes off and you develop a close friendship. And so it's that easy. And it can also be, it's that easy for PTSD. And, veterans suffer a lot. PTSD is just one of the things that veterans suffer with, disability. I guess PTSD is the umbrella, but what service members go through on a daily basis. So it doesn't have to be a veteran. What service members go through on a daily basis at their job, then we have to go home and we're expected to be a good husband, good father, what have you. So it's not just PTSD. Service, this is my plug for service members. And I always say thank you to you for paving the way for the rest of us. That's something I say to every veteran I meet, every veteran I interact with, because it's true. There was someone before me, before you, that paved the way for us, not just for us, but for our country. And, those people deserve the respect and the homage, if you will, because we would not be who we are, where we are without them if they didn't struggle before us.
100%, man. No, thank you.
No, Bryce, thank you. Please send me those links so I can put them in the when I edit it to YouTube, so I can throw them in there, because I think that would be a great way to get it out there if anyone clicks on it. Anything we can do to do our part. But Bryce, I want this to be a friendship, man. You got a friend in John. I want to hear from you. I'll check in on you, see how the Silent Hero is going. I'll shoot you a message every time I have one of your cigars. Shoot me your address so I can send you some of my cigars. But I hope you have a great happy Friday Eve to everyone. Just got to do a little plug really quick. My next live is coming up, I believe, August 21st or 22nd. I got confirmed with Ben from Ben Smoking. Ben Smoking, he's on this live. He's been watching it. He is one of those people. He loves the cigar community. He is on every live. He is commenting. He is involved. So I'm excited to finally do a live with him. And I've never met these people before. I've never met Bryce before Instagram interaction, but all it takes is a little conversation. And, I felt very comfortable with you. And thanks for sharing your story with PTSD, man. I know it's not easy to talk about, and clearly you're in a great place because you're able to talk about it with such confidence. And I admire you and I respect you. And so thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, like I said, I'll put myself at any type of discomfort if that means that somebody can see me doing it, and they don't have to go out there and shout it from the rooftops. Don't get me wrong, but like if they just find comfort and even just saying it to their dog, you know, I don't care. It's fine for me. I'll take the discomfort if that means making you a little bit more at ease.
Hey, you're still serving. You're not in the military. You're still serving, just in a different way now and through cigars.
Very true.
But anyway, guys, hope everyone has a great Friday Eve. Enjoy the weekend. Be safe. And we'll see you around. Bryce, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.
Later, everyone.